I'm here overlooking Gatlinburg, Tennessee with Aubrey Deck and David Brandenburg, both from TWRA, and we're going to talk about black bears. Aubrey, David, thanks for being with us.
Nice to be here.
No problem.
We know the number one thing that people want to see when they come to East Tennessee is a black bear, and we know there's a lot of them. Give us some history about the bears and what we've been dealing with the last several years.
Well, right now, at this point in time in history, we've got more bears than we've had probably in the last 300 years. We've had record harvest in the last 2 years. And, but basically the factors that explain the number of bears that we have today is the obvious is the formation of the Cherokee National Forest and Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Also in the early 70s, we formed sanctuaries to protect breeding females. Also, we utilized Dr. Mike Pelton, his research at the University of Tennessee, and took his information and used it for management purposes. And also the forest, you know, which was cut over largely, is now grown back, so it's its peak production. And also, we would have never thought our bear population was this resilient. That is, it was able to withstand all the negative factors in the early days, such as habitat loss, unregulated hunting and trapping, poaching, all that. So, but more bears than we've had in the last 300 years.
David, as far as numbers, about how many do we have and how do they move about? I know people ask that a lot.
Well, as far as the numbers, we don't actually have a population estimate. Now the park does, and they estimate probably about 2,000 bears in the park. You know, if I had to take a guess at it, we probably got anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 bears in Tennessee. Bears have large home ranges. You know, males may have a home range over 100 square miles, females quite a bit smaller than that, but they're very much a mobile animal. And for example, bears, you know, they just don't stay on federal property. They cross both state, local, and federal boundaries, and that's just what we see here in Gatlinburg.
Aubrey, what are some of the challenges we face dealing with the bears in this area?
Well, probably the number one challenge is that most people, you know, when they hear of a bear that had to be put down because someone was feeding the bear and the bear swiped at him and injured the human being. Of course, people hate to hear those kinds of stories, but what most people don't think about, and happens much more frequently, is a lot of the people that hear those same stories themselves are unintentionally causing the same kind of results with bears. Every time a bear gets access to any kind of human attractant, whether it's pet food, bird food, and of course human garbage, anytime they get access, that they move away from being a wild bear and come closer to being a domesticated bear, if you ever had such a thing. And at some point they pass that threshold where they can no longer be wild ever again. And one way or another, those bears eventually wind up dead, whether it's that they have to be put down in some examples, but most of the time they get hit by a car because they're used to coming into town and trying to get access to that food. What most people don't realize is that in a perfect world, if we were able to keep bears from getting access to any and all sources of human food, we would still see bears. It would just be different bears all the time instead of the same bear over and over and over. In that case, bears would stay wild, and it would be a win-win scenario for everyone.
So the bear-proof containers is ultimately important, and I guess you can start with businesses with dumpsters and then go to residential. Talk about that just a little bit.
Absolutely. With businesses, you know, in the city of Gatlinburg, there's a lot of turnover in ownership, management, and of course employees. And so it's a constant education effort so that people can understand why it's important to make sure that that latch is latched on the bear container. There are some containers that when the lid closes, it automatically latches and the employees don't have to worry about it. And that system certainly works. Of course, it's more expensive, and because business costs are what they are, some businesses elect to use a steel cable system that just hooks on, and that's fine as well, as long as the employees, anyone and everyone who's actually using it, actually latches it behind them. It's got to be latched all the time, day or night. Of course, nighttime is the most important because most bears are active at night. We do get some day active bears, and as they become more and more day active, that's that mentality of the bear changing more to domestication and away from being wild. As they lose their fear of humans, as they lose their desire to find wild food, and their desire increases to come into town and get unnatural foods, that's when it becomes too late for that bear.
So it's really an injustice to the bear to let them get into garbage and eat human food.
Absolutely.
David, what do you think we can continue to do to help improve the situation with the bears?
Well, the key is garbage management and making sure we can get these garbage cans and dumpsters where their bears can't get them, bear-proof them, and also information and education. We've got to inform the public of the implications of their behavior, such as intentionally feeding bears or even accidentally feeding bears. And the old adage is absolutely garbage kills bears,
Yeah.
and a fed bear is a dead bear. And disappointingly, TWRA, our agency, has to come in and euthanize bears every year because of bears being habituated to people and just evolving into a full-blown threat to the community. And you know, we can avoid that by just not feeding bears.
So if people love to come and see bears, they love bears, don't feed them.
Don't feed them.
Don't feed them.
A lot of people don't think about the legal aspect of the human-bear interactions in Tennessee. In the state of Tennessee, we have a law that specifically covers Gatlinburg, that you can't provide access to bears to where they can get access to food, again, whether it's human food or pet food or bird food. Anything that would attract a bear can't be to where a bear can get access to it. So essentially, that means during the warm months, no bird feeders, no feeding your pets outside, and certainly no access to human garbage. And that equates to either taking your garbage every day, you know, keeping it inside your house and taking it to the dump every day, or, you know, the more common thing is going to be to have some type of a bear-proof container. Right now we're in a situation where a lot of the bear-proof containers that are around town are a decade old or older, and a lot of people don't think about the fact that it's their responsibility legally to maintain those containers. At some point, some containers have to be replaced. As they break down, the metal will get wear and tear and get bent. So ultimately, people have to use what they buy. You know, if they make a system where you have to latch it, you got to keep it latched, and that means you physically put it on there. And then once it gets to the point where it requires maintenance, it's up to them to maintain it. There's actually a state law against that. Most people don't realize that.